Today's mod is going to require 3 things.
It's going to require you to be handy.
I got that.
It's going to require some basic hand tools.
I always got that.
And most of all, it's going to require a lot of patience.
So close. I may not have that. So what's today's video about? We're going to replace this typical doorknob with a recessed doorknob.
So why did we decide to go with a recessed doorknob? Well, like many campers, there's always kind of that spot in your camper where there's just not enough space. For us, it's right when we walk in our door. There's the fridge door, the bathroom door, and the sink kind of all together, and you turn a corner. So having a few inches of space there is going to be really helpful. I found this doorknob online, so I thought, we're going to give it a try. And since we've actually been touring a few other campers, and we saw a few more instances where an RV manufacturer could have really used a recessed doorknob. So, is it just as simple as switching out the doorknob, the old doorknob for the new doorknob? Not quite. There's a catch.
Here's the catch. This European doorknob is not designed for American doors, so some modification is going to be required. So I'm going to have to chisel out this back set in this door that has a circular bore for a rectangular bore.
So this modification took us about an hour, hour and a half overall, but we do think it's worth it. So let's go ahead and get started.
The first thing I did was mark where the new back set would hit. Then I took my jab saw and cut grooves so it would chisel out much easier. On the next step, I had to use my chisel and clean everything up so that it fit perfectly. It took about 15 to 20 minutes. There you go. Fits like a glove. Next, I had to chisel away to get the face plate to sit flush with the face of the door.
Now this is where we ran into a little trouble.
All right, guys, we're going to have to postpone this little process. We're under a level 3 tornado or enhanced severe weather risk, so we're going to sign off for now and beat it back to a safer place to hide out. Storms have ended. We're back up here at the camper, and let's recap where we were and what I just finished. Okay, I've chiseled out this door, and we've made it where it will receive the back set just like it's supposed to. So we're all set on this side. Now, I need to chip away a little in the back so the back set will sit level. Then we can go ahead and get it screwed in.
Okay, so the next thing we had to address is the spindle. This is the old doorknob. The spindle is attached to the one side. It goes into the other doorknob, and when it's installed, that's what allows you to turn the door. The new one came with 2 of these. Actually, I'm assuming one is maybe a spare for different sizes. Here's the problem, though. It's too long. So at first, we were hoping, we could maybe get this one out of here and use it. It was not going to work. And also, we discovered it's not the same thickness. So even if we could have got this one into the new doorknob, it wouldn't have turned it. It needed to be just a little bit thicker. So this thing, too long, which meant we're going to have to cut down this little bar stock.
We had to cut this spindle down, and in doing so, we had to make a bit of an educated guess. We pre-installed it to get an idea of how long it was and how much we needed to cut off. Then I used my hacksaw to cut it down to just over 2 inches and used a flat file to soften the rough edges and remove the burrs. So we got lucky with it, and we did it right on the first try. Once we knew that was good, we moved on to the next step. With this package, they provided Chicago screws, which basically fit together like this. Now, this particular screw was too long for our door, so we took 3 segments off, and we're going to talk about that right now. This is not the one provided, but this is a segmented screw that I had in the shop. For our camper, we're going to remove 1, 2, 3 segments using these wire strippers. Now, we did take these segments down one at a time because we wanted to make sure that we didn't take off too much. But you got to put the screw in the hole and compress. Now that the segmented screws are cut to the correct length, and we know they are, we're going to move on to the final stage, installation. It's time for the install, but also I've got a few tips. The first tip is to make sure that these holes line up with the holes in the back set. Tip number 2. Obviously, most things are better if you got somebody to work with you and help you, but if you don't, you can still get there. You want to use construction tape, tape the doorknob in place, taking special care to make sure that you can see daylight between these 2 holes and that everything is lined up front to back on both sides. Also, you want to take your knob and you want to make sure you hold this thing out of the way so you don't have to struggle with that when you put the screws in. I put this in first on the back side. If you've done your work, you don't have to struggle hard at this point because everything is lined up, and you got to feel around a little bit. But once you feel the thread start to grab, go ahead and screw it home. Now that we've got both of these screws in, we're going to take the time to remove all this painter's tape. It takes just a second, but it is so helpful in the overall enjoyment of this project. If you really tighten these screws like you normally would, this mechanism doesn't travel freely. You've got to find that sweet spot. You've got to back the screws off and tighten them to where it's just tight enough to hold the knob, but also loose enough to let this mechanism float freely. So the doorknob is installed, but we have one last step. Here's the strike plate that came with the original doorknob on this camper. This new replacement doorknob has a slightly different configuration on the strike plate. So you're going to have to use your chisel, and you're going to have to do a little work on this camper door jamb to make it look right, because we want to install this plastic insert that goes behind the strike plate. Just takes a few minutes.
So that was the final step, and this is the final product. We are going to touch up the door around the plate with a little paint so it looks a little bit more factory. And as we go through the year, we'll let you know how the doorknob works. So that's it. The doorknob is in, the strike plate is in, everything is working really well, and we're really happy with it.
If you enjoyed today's video and you like these kind of things, please like it and hit that subscribe button.
And remember, Desi always wants you to hit that notification bell.